So Tucker Carlson smeared Bernie Sanders on his show with an inaccurate point about his campaign. So I'm going to break that down for you. But he also, in this clip you're going to see, pulls the king of all false equivalence arguments where he says, there's really no choice on the Democratic side. All the candidates are fundamentally the same, which is a claim that, as you know, is totally ridiculous. So let's watch and we'll discuss that too.
Well, there are more than 20 Democrats campaigning to be next president of the United States, and with so many options, you'd think the Democratic voters would have a lot of choices, but really they don't have a lot of choices. They only control the cosmetic appearance of their next candidate. They can decide whether their nominee will be running to be the first Hispanic president or the first female president or the first gay president. But in everything that actually matters, in other words, what they believe, they're pretty much the same. All of them will be running on a platform of open borders, open prisons, free health care for illegals, etc. And all of them have the same tone of their campaign. They all spend the election campaign asserting their superiority to the country. They deserve to be president not simply because they're better than Donald Trump, but because morally they're better than you too. On the campaign trail, Bernie Sanders has been zealously demanding that other people and other businesses increase their minimum wage to $15 an hour. For example, he's accused Walmart of paying its employees, quote, starvation wages. He's also celebrated workers who have protested and gone on strike to demand a pay increase right now. Watch this.
I want to applaud the thousands and thousands of workers from coast to coast, people who work at McDonald's, people who work at Burger King, people who work all over this country, who have stood up over the years and demanded that the federal minimum wage be raised to a living wage, $15 an hour.
Okay, well, he couldn't have been clearer about that. So you would expect in the way that he lives, Sanders would set a good example for the rest of the country. But it turns out, and you may have guessed this, Bernie is so confident that he is a deeply good person and his cause is just, that he's just not shackled to the same rules that he wants everyone else to follow. For example, right now, Sanders' campaign is battling its own campaign workers. They say they're being paid the same starvation wages that Walmart employees get, less than $13 an hour. Sanders hasn't budged, though. If they aren't happy, they can go work on another campaign or they can quit. That's his position.
No, it's not, and you're full of shit. So, let's break this down here. So Bernie Sanders' campaign, it was the first of any campaign ever to unionize. You want to know why? Because Bernie actually believes in what he talks about. He's pro-union. So the idea of his campaign workers unionizing, he's all for it. Not only that, it is a fact. Bernie Sanders campaign workers get the best pay and the best benefits of any campaign anywhere. Full stop. Now, here are the details. The campaign and the union both confirmed that they have a collective bargaining agreement that was ratified in May. And it set, get this, the base pay rate for field staff at $36,000 a year. Okay? So that salary works out to under $15 an hour based on a 60-hour work week. So here's what happened. When they started the campaign, they just thought, oh, we'll just have, regular work hours. And if you do the regular work hours, that amount of money works out to $15 an hour. But as often happens with campaigns, a lot of the people who are working end up working way more than standard work hours. So they ended up working like 60 hours a week. So since it was salary, they did end up making less than $15 an hour. But then immediately when they learned about what was going on, they, meaning, Bernie's campaign manager and Bernie, they came out and they immediately said, okay, we're going to guarantee you $15 an hour for no matter, how many hours you work. What happened in response? The union rejected it. So let's be clear. So the original idea was $36,000 a year, which is above and beyond what any other campaign does. Okay, I'm going to get to the other benefits in just a second here. And it was just going to be standard hours. But what happened was, as often happens on these campaigns, is people just ended up working longer hours. So since that was the case, that $36,000 a year ended up being a little bit below $15 an hour. But the second they learned about that, Bernie was like, well, we're going to make it $15 an hour, raise the pay. Let's do that. And when the union rejected it, what was the next step that the Bernie campaign did? They said, okay, listen, if you guys rejected this, we are still not comfortable with people making less than $15 an hour, so we'll make it so that you work a normal work week, and so your pay will equal $15 an hour. In the meantime, while we try to, negotiate and work out, what the final agreement will be. So do you understand that? That's how much they believe in this idea of a living wage. They believe in it so much that they said the second they learned some people were working too long, they said, okay, we'll guarantee $15 an hour. And the union said no because they wanted more. And then the Bernie campaign turned around and said, okay, that's fine, and we'll keep negotiating. But until we do that, we're going to make sure you work a normal work week in terms of hours so you do already immediately start making $15 an hour. That's what's going on. So the way that this has been reported in mainstream media, they're just doing a smear job. Tucker Carlson here's running with it as if Bernie's a hypocrite when Bernie's like the fucking least hypocritical person on the planet, and it's fucking beyond obvious. And then also, let me add this, because this is incredibly important. In addition to that pay scale, here's what workers get. Full health insurance without a premium, mental health benefits, parental leave options, a gas card for use while on the job, and other options not traditionally available to campaign staff. So, best pay in the business, immediately try to fix any problem, okay, and incredible benefits. There's no issue here. You know what the real issue is? And this is just my suspicion, okay? This is based on nothing. None of the reports came out about this, but this is my suspicion. Some people in the union went to the media and tried to portray Bernie negatively as if he did something wrong, when I just told you the whole story and it's crystal clear what went on, and it's crystal clear they've been doing the right thing every step of the way, okay? I think there are moles in the campaign. I think that there are people who are either right-wing plants, or if not like right-wing Republican plants in the campaign, corporate centrist Democrat plants, like, former centrist third way kind of Democrats, Hillary Clinton Democrats, who are like trying to bring down the campaign from within. And this is not unheard of, by the way. If you think this is conspiratorial, think again. There were moles in the Trump campaign the last time around. And that was reported on. So, and when I say moles in that instance, I mean like CIA, FBI plants. I'm pretty sure the CIA and the FBI will have plants in every campaign. But in this instance, I don't think it's a CIA or FBI plant, although it could be. I think it's more likely it's a corporate centrist Democrat plant or a Republican plant who's trying to, like, he took this information, gave it to the press portrayed it in the most negative light imaginable, didn't tell you the full story, and tried to portray Bernie as a hypocrite on $15 an hour. They're trying to tank the campaign from within by giving dirt. That's what I think is going on here. But anyway, I digress from that point. Let's get back to what Tucker was saying. Do you realize how insane a claim it is to say that the 20 Democratic candidates, they're all the same? Oh, the only thing you're arguing over is you want the first gay president, you want the first black female president. That's all they're arguing over. Okay, this is another one of those issues where I hear Tucker say this, and I think, dude, there's no way you're dumb enough to believe what you just said. Like, you know that what you just said is a complete lie. That there's massive differences between the different candidates. Massive differences. Giant differences. So, but this is his shtick. His shtick is like, oh, the left, they're all the same. They're all fucking obsessed with identity politics. And, they're not focused on issues. And then he does a massive straw man of everybody on the left and everybody running for president. He says, they're running on open borders. There's not a single candidate running on open borders. Not a single one. The furthest anybody has gone is to say the following. We need to change the law from illegally crossing the border being a misdemeanor, which is what it is right now, to a civil offense. Why? Why do they want to change it to a civil offense? Which, by the way, is still a crime. They want to change it to a civil offense to stop the family separations, to stop the breakup of families, which Democrats and Republicans, including Trump, have argued, yeah, the family separations goes too far. We don't want kids in cages. Okay, so we all agree. How do we achieve that? Change border crossings from a misdemeanor to a civil offense, which is still a crime, but you cannot separate the families if it's a civil offense. So that's a lie when they say the left is in favor of open borders. Name one candidate who has argued for open borders without you trying to, I'm going to read between the lines and say what I think they're thinking. No. What they actually say. What's actually posted on their campaign websites, what they're actually arguing for and running on. Name one candidate you can't do it because it's not true. They don't exist. You're full of shit. You're full of shit, Tucker. You're arguing against a stereotype. You straw man the other side and then you beat down that straw man and walk around like you're some sort of champion. You're some sort of intellectual hero. Oh, please. Give me a break, man. Fake straight shooter nonsense. Then he says they're running on open prisons. What? What are you talking about? We want to abolish private prisons. That's what Democrats are running on. Many of them want to abolish private prisons. But that's not the same thing as abolishing all prisons. I mean, maybe you find some people, in online lefty world, in the Twitterverse, who might take that position. But they would be the first to tell you not a single Democratic candidate wants to abolish all prisons. What are you talking about? And then, the classic thing that the right is going to keep coming back to now is, they want to give free healthcare for illegals. Well, many of the Democratic candidates, not all of them because they're not all for Medicare for all, but Bernie Sanders, for example, wants to give free healthcare to Americans too. You leave that one out, but you say, illegals. That's not as extreme as it sounds because what's the alternative? Let them die in the street? This is a serious question. They get all, the right gets all mad when the Democrats want to give free healthcare to illegals. Okay, so if we have a Medicare for all system, and you have an undocumented immigrant who goes to the emergency room, and they have a broken arm, or let's say they're having a brain hemorrhage or something, what do? So let's say somebody's unconscious and they show up to the ER. What are you going to do? You're going to say, they're not a citizen, so we can't help them. If you're on the right and take this to its logical conclusion, that's what you'd have to say. No, you're not a citizen, so we're not going to give you health care. What do you want me to tell you? What do you want me to tell you? So what's the alternative here, guys? What's the alternative? And also, it's easy to focus on, illegals. You want to give illegals health care. But they're purposely denying and dodging the idea that Medicare for all would cover all Americans. So it's not a zero-sum game. It's not like, if I don't get health care, the illegal immigrant is getting it. No, you're going to get it. You're going to get it. Relax, breathe. It's okay. You're going to get it, and you're going to pay a lot less for it. And you won't have to pay private taxes in the form of premium copays and deductibles to a rapacious mafia-like middleman. So they have their little nuggets that they seize on to try to act like, the left is crazy. And probably the majority of them are just not true and are made up and are stupid. And then the other ones that they try to harp away on are just, they're like gross distortions and misleading arguments that try to instill fear in you to make you think like, I want to treat illegals better than they treat me. Nonsense. Under a Medicare for all system, everybody's covered, full stop. And you pay less for it. So this isn't, and the funny thing is, he's obfuscating because as he argues like, the Democrats want free healthcare for illegals. What he doesn't tell you is the Republicans don't want free healthcare for Americans. Under Trump, we have 30 to 40 million Americans without health insurance. We have 30 to 45,000 Americans that die every year because they don't have access to basic healthcare. That's what we have right now. You should be fear-mongering over that because that's actually something to fear. But no, you're always on, healthcare for illegals, gross. Man, how embarrassing is this? Under Trump, 7 million more people lost their health insurance. Just since Trump's been in office. Why don't you fearmonger about that, Tucker? You won't do it because you like Trump. So it's, this was just, he packed the bullshit into this segment, man. Try a little harder next time you smear Bernie. Because obviously, as soon as I did the research on this, I was like, Tucker's full of shit, and he's misleading everybody in his audience.